Hello, and welcome to the podcast, It's a Matter of Life and Death, a podcast by Annie Anderson and the Energy Medicine Clinic, one where we look to support, align, guide, and empower conversations that are tricky, passionate, and emotional about life and death. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the studio. I'm so excited. I have a guest returning today. This will be her second time here with us. And the first time we had a great conversation. You should actually go back and listen to the episode. It was episode 2. Go back and listen to that one where Nikole shared some of her journey through cancer, as well as the loss of her mom and how really that impacted her in how she's living her life today. And I'm so excited to have her back here today because we were talking about how can people empower themselves to heal. And man, she's got a great story. So this is actually going to be a 2-part series, a before and after Nikole's journey to Costa Rica. Welcome.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you, Annie. I am, again, so honored to be here. This is starting to be like my favorite activity, is coming and talking with you about me and my life.
What I like saying the most, that's not true. One of the things I like saying the most is quiet on the set. It just sounds so fun.
And
we have fun when we do this. This
living our best lives right here. Yeah. And I like sharing my perspective, my story. I feel like I have been on an intense journey and I've been through a lot of stuff.
You have.
And I have a lot of things that have helped me along the way.
You have a lot of wisdom and insight for people just getting started in their journeys, and people that are halfway through their journeys, and people that feel like they're done. And really, when are we ever done growing?
Right. And I was saying earlier, I don't think that I've graduated therapy, because I don't think that that's a real thing, because there's always something new to learn about ourselves, and then situations come up in life that we're not expecting. But being able to empower ourselves and have tools in our toolbox to use when we're faced with unexpected hard times.
Tricky things. Mm-hmm. And so what we're going to talk about today is just one of those many tools that you've tried. And this is interesting because there's a lot of curiosity from a lot of people about this sort of experience that you're headed into, myself included. Like, I find it fascinating. Yeah. And I am really grateful to be able to have this before and after opportunity to talk to you, because it's a fork in the road. It's a decision point that you'll be crossing through. And once you've gone through, your life will never be the same simply by sheer virtue of having had that experience.
Right.
So tell me about how you got to be contemplating this trip to Costa Rica.
Yeah, so I am going to Costa Rica. I fly out next Friday, and I am going to the Rhythmia Resort. It is the world's first and only medically licensed resort for ayahuasca, and which is a plant medicine, psychedelic based, made from like jungle roots and
vines.
Yeah, and it's used as a psychedelic medicine to purge and like spiritually cleanse and start anew.
I was very actually happy to hear the credentials of this resort, because there can be some tricky things that come out of people having these experiences that don't have the guarantee of what they're actually going to be experiencing and who's going to be supervising them and some of the possible outcomes that people have had. And to know that it sounds very safe.
Yes. So they have mental health professionals there. They have doctors. There's like a medical exam that like an assessment. Yep. As soon as I land and check in. I had to fill out already like a pre-screen assessment, kind of, just to understand. And they want it to be done in a safe and
therapeutic way.
Mm-hmm. And then they have, like I said, the mental health professionals there to help support, because ayahuasca, as a plant medicine, brings up it showcases the things that need to healing. Right. And I'm apprehensive about that, as I know I have got a lot of cobwebs
junk in
there.
Mm-hmm.
in all the right ways. I got both. But yeah, there's a lot of darkness that I've been through, and I'm cautiously optimistic.
Tell me how you got to even consider this as something that you wanted to try as a tool.
So I left the Mormon church in 2020. And I mean, that had on its own been a journey of a few years.
Sure.
And just realizing that perspective and mentality didn't align with who I am deep inside, and being able to step away from that. I listened to a podcast in 2020 called Mormons on Mushrooms. And one of the contributors to that podcast shared her journey of ayahuasca. And before then, I had never heard of it, didn't know even, like, this was kind of my intro to plant medicine.
And this was in 2020.
Yeah.
So it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I listened to the podcast, and at that time, it was just fascinating and interesting.
How did you find that podcast to start with?
I have a friend who actually is a contributor to it and a supporter in it, and he has been was influential for me in processing things as I was leaving the church, and understanding the power that plant medicine can have in your life. And so, yeah, I listened to this podcast and was intrigued, but more just like curious. Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
That's cool for someone else to do. And then never really thought about it again. And in the 4 years since then, I've done different steps in my healing journey. I've done, talk therapy. I've done Reiki and tapping and EMDR I've used. And so I've done the, what is that? Traditional and certified way in ways to heal, and
the Western version of that.
Right. And then with just broadening my understanding and awareness of the different ways that plant medicine can be helpful and beneficial. And so I've used mushrooms, and the first time I tried mushrooms, it was more just for recreational. I wasn't intending it to be like sit down and have a therapy session and then do integration after. It was more just, I'm curious of how this is going to feel. Let's have fun and let's go. And I actually didn't think it worked at first.
And what made you realize that maybe it had an influence deeper than you expected? The
next day. So I went with my boyfriend. We went to Fernie, we did mushrooms, and I was like, I don't feel any different. And so it was just like, well, whatever, let's keep having fun. Just, I got high and drunk, and then had great rest of the weekend. And then the next day when I got home, I was talking with the guy who lived upstairs, and realized like my mind was opened to different ways of thinking in a way that I hadn't prepared for. And then being able to talk with my friend from the Mormons on Mushrooms, and just do a little bit more integration. But I saw how time isn't linear in the way that we understand it. There's past, present, and future. But after that first time with mushrooms, I realized it's more like the pages of a book spread open.
With the spine flat on the table.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how to audibly describe that. But with all the different pages, and like, it's just a different way of looking at time. And I had lived in Toronto, and actually, no, I'm messing up timeline there.
Isn't that ironic?
So, yeah. Okay, so this time I'm specifically remembering was the day after my first mushroom trip, and I realized that during cancer, because as I shared in the previous episode, I had stage 4 Hodgkin lymphoma. And at the time I wrote a blog, and I was super positive, and I was attributing it all to God. And, but after the mushroom trip, I felt like a deeper realization that was the strength that I had during that time was from me sitting on the floor after the mushrooms, was me sending that energy back to myself from the past, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And realizing that it was me all along, and I had gotten my inner strength and power from myself, from the future.
Yeah.
And mushrooms were able to open my mind and like bring that realization to me, and the empowerment that I felt from that. And I've done mushrooms a few more times and had more healing and more purposeful integration with it and understanding, processing. I'm very much a talker when I'm processing. It's how I get my brain to think of things, and talking it out is how I process and heal. And just feeling supported through that from the mushrooms, and it changes your brain.
Okay.
And it changes the way that I perceived things and able to heal.
Well, certainly if you're looking at things through a different lens, you will see different things.
And realizing the power that I had, and like the strength is from me, and just realizing that and being able to send that energy and send that love to myself, to the past, and being able to hold that past version of me and give that love. And it was
Have you shared
from
that,
me.
that perspective with any of the people from this facility? Like, should I expect that when I'm there, what I will be able to do is go back and revisit younger Nikole and help her heal in that time through that space-time shift?
Right. I haven't said that in those words specifically, but I think that that's what the power of ayahuasca does, even on a deeper level. And being able to have the previous experiences that I've had with psychedelics, to have that as a foundation, so that when the ayahuasca is working and I'm going through the ceremonies, that I'm not getting run over by a bus. Like
or at least somebody's going to get the license plate number.
Right. That I'll be able to manage and navigate that without it consuming me, and being able to use that as a healing
vehicle.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Did anybody from the resort who has done ayahuasca give you any insight, or have you had to seek that outside of there, or did you have that insight before you decided to investigate it deeper?
Okay, so like I said, I listened to the podcast, and then ayahuasca just was like gone from my consciousness. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't actively pursuing it, nothing. I was pursuing healing in a different way. Like I said, the therapy, and I had done mushrooms as a way for healing and having integration sessions and stuff through that. And then I have done the MDMA and LSD more for recreational purposes, but I think that the beauty of plant medicine is that you can take it for intention of fun and recreation, but the medicine goes where it needs to, and it still is there for healing, and it changes, it opens your mind and activates things that your brain can't get there on its own.
Right.
And as legislation changes in our province and we're able to access psychedelics for healing, I I have been like a beneficiary of that, and felt the difference that it makes in opening my mind and being able to heal. And so I am in a Mormon Stories podcast group on Facebook, and someone from Utah shared in December that they had gone to Costa Rica and this was their second journey to Costa Rica with ayahuasca. And if anybody was asking questions, come and let me know. This was an incredible journey for him, and he was just kind of putting it out into the universe. And I saw that, I think, within the first hour of him posting it, and instantly felt drawn to it and was just like, oh my goodness, this is the next step that I didn't even know I needed to take, but it just was like, this is resonating with me. I'm feeling, I don't like saying I feel called to
Right.
it. That has a little bit of whatever that is, like a
trigger.
A little bit. But it is like, it was like,
How about drawn? Does
yes,
that resonate?
I like
Okay.
I being drawn to it. Like my soul is needing this, and I feel that. And so his name's Jordan, and him and I message, and I said, I'm very interested in this. Tell me more. And he gave me the website. It's rhythmia.com, and Rhythmia is it's a licensed medical professionals there to support your healing journey. And
like intake process, medication
Yes.
analysis, you know,
Yep.
not medication history, medical history.
Yeah,
the
and
works.
to assess and make sure that this is safe for me to do. And
So I presume you met all of those check marks.
Yep.
You're safe to go. Okay. Very
yeah,
good.
and there is a little bit of pre-work. So they ask that you be off psychedelics for 30 days before, being off cannabis for 15 days at least before, no alcohol, just being clean and sober and ready to, and they even suggest like eating clean foods and
no processed crap and
right, and just to really prepare your body to allow the medicine to go truly where it's needed and to get the most out of this healing journey. And so yeah, it was nice to talk with Jordan because I mean, I could sit and read Google reviews all day, but that I just doubt that. Like, is that a real person or is that just AI? Like, who's to know? But actually talking with Jordan and
ask
hearing
questions.
his story, and we talked on the phone and we've been messaging, and he knows the nitty gritty, you know, and even just tips of, the resort has shuttle, but if you want, you can go with this company and then save you some money here. And Jordan had, I'm sure it still is, but for every person who booked with Jordan, he gets every three bookings, he gets a free one to give to someone in need. Like, he has an arrangement with Rhythmia to support people in their healings. And I asked, like, is this a good investment, like, for myself? Because I have investments in the bank. Like, I have the money, but is this
going to be good return?
Good, worthwhile? And he said, this will be the best money that you ever spend.
May I ask how much it is?
So it's about $6,000 Canadian. And I'm not a math and money person. And, you know, I see it and it's US dollars, and I know that means it's more Canadian. So it's about $6,000 for 7 days, all inclusive. You're at the resort in Costa Rica.
Does that include your flight?
No.
Okay. So flight separate, but so your accommodations, your food, all your ceremonies, all the activities.
I have to pay once I land. I have to pay $160 for the actual plant medicine, for the ayahuasca. And then Jordan suggested that I take a few days after just to integrate on my own before coming back to the real world.
Right.
And
are you going to be able to do that?
Yep.
Okay.
So it just is a shift in my perspective of I have the money and it's sitting in the bank, so I'm just changing where I'm investing that, and I'm taking my investment and putting it into myself instead.
It's a great perspective.
And because it is an expensive experience because, you know, the flight, I got quite a good deal on flights. And then like for the day before I am at the resort, and then the 3 days after is on separate. And so I have to pay for hotel and food and transport to get from the airport to the resort, from the resort to the other hotel, and then back to the airport is $200. Like, it starts to add up.
And time away from being able to work. So you're probably looking at like $10,000 all said and done.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Sure. That might be a little bit high, but sure. Yeah. $10,000.
Well, I'm just wondering if when you come back to reality, how many people need a few days to settle into their regular life.
Right.
To so that integrate might be a few days off work too.
Right. I'm not working at this time. So it's how I'm just embracing this, and I'm using this time to heal. And I'm trusting the plant medicine to help me to heal from things that I maybe don't even know, or I'm not even consciously aware of. Like, it's going to shine the light in the corner, and we're going to scoop out those cobwebs and
chains or whatever metaphorical things that might be binding you.
Yeah. And just like a lot of, you know, indoctrination and wrong ideas from the trauma that I've had, and how that impacts the way that I think about myself and how I show up in the world, and being able to align that with how I want to, not how I am. And because sometimes there's a difference in those things. And as I've gone through this time of healing and intentionally like seeing a psychologist and Reiki and tapping
and EMDR and diet change and exercise.
Right.
You've done a lot for yourself.
Yeah, it's been, you know, I feel like the things that I'm needing are presenting them to me as I need it.
And you're ready for it.
Yeah. So when I first even heard of ayahuasca, it wasn't something that I was ready for. But then when I heard about it again and read Jordan's post, instantly I knew that was the next step that I needed to do. And when I shared that I was going to do that with my therapists, excitement and yes, this is going to be what you need. And yeah, I'm like a little nervous just because I know it's going to be super hard. And I know that it's going to be
you can do hard things.
So worth it. I can do hard things. I am doing hard things. And almost like I don't know what is next.
Yeah.
And I'm trusting the medicine to go where it needs to go and bring up the things that I am needing to heal for sure. And having the triggers be like a flag of this is something that we need to work on, and being able to be supported through that and know that I've done a lot of work to prepare to get here. And I've had experience with psychedelics. So it's not going to be...
It will be very interesting in part 2 of this that we'll record when you get back to see if it's what you thought it would be.
Right.
Because there's some big stories about people having massive GI evacuations, let's put it that way. You know, in all the ways.
Yeah.
And that's scary for some people. Just that itself is a fear.
Yeah. Jordan shared with me that I don't know if it was someone that he knew or just knew of, but a friend, acquaintance had gone down to ayahuasca and died by suicide a few days later.
While they were down there? Wow.
And so he didn't come home because of the darkness that it brought up. And I wonder, like, I don't know how much therapy and work he had done before. Like, there's...
Or if this was his first foray into something.
Totally. I don't know, but it's that intense. Like, he was overwhelmed by the feelings and didn't...
What came up?
Didn't navigate it in a healthy way.
Well, who's to say if it was healthy for him?
Right.
But yeah, there can be a lot of unexpected consequences, unintended consequences,
right?
Good and bad. You know, people say consequences and they always think, oh, that's it, you're being punished. But the consequence of doing something can also be a reward.
Right. Even if it's hard.
Yeah.
So I understand ayahuasca to be a very intense medication, that it's like you're on, literally your mind is in another dimension, and your body literally purges, like barfing, diarrhea. Like your body is shedding the things that you don't need, and then understanding that correlation with the emotional things. And yeah, I've done a lot of the work. I have a fairly good self-awareness of myself, and I know that there is darkness there, and I'm ready to
put the light on it,
see it and embrace it. And that, I think that it's like the yin and the yang. There has to be darkness for us to appreciate the light. I'm wanting to shed the darkness that isn't serving me,
right,
and that is holding me back.
taking up space.
Yeah, I say it like I am hauling this backpack. You know, we're going through this, our life, and we have a backpack, and I'm going to start climbing a mountain, and suddenly in my backpack there's a whole bunch of rocks, and it's making the backpack really heavy. I have to climb Bear's Hump, and I'm hauling this backpack full of rocks. And I feel that plant medicine helps to open up the backpack and take out the rocks and hold the rock and say, is this something that I need in my life? Is this beneficial to me? Because some things it is.
And they're still hard to carry, but they're necessary.
Right. The responsibility. I have 4 children, and that with it comes so much responsibility. And I can't leave the 4 rocks of my children not in my backpack. Like I'm choosing to have those, that weight, that responsibility to be and to stay in my backpack. I'm excited for ayahuasca to help me look through even more what are the rocks I'm hauling around that I don't need.
Yeah.
The wrong ideas I was taught about myself, about my body, heard these things from being a kid, being a woman, being lesser than. Like there's so many different things that we carry around.
That we didn't even know were put in our backpack by somebody else.
Right. And being able to let that go and release. And I've done, with Reiki, I've done releasing those emotions. Why am I hauling around this fear of being abandoned? Well, I can let that go. And then even more look and see, I was carrying around my mom's fear of abandonment. Why? That's not my weight to carry. And being able to assess that and hold it and say, thank you for being here, and I let you go. I don't need this anymore. And I can just put that rock beside me on the path and keep going. Tie up my backpack and make it a lighter load for me, and not have to carry around things that aren't mine.
Is there anybody that you've shared your journey with that hasn't been supportive of this next step?
So I can say Anna, because Anna works very much with the psychedelics. She was my therapist when I was going through cancer. I met with her. I was in crisis and having a really hard adjustment after cancer, and because it brought up so much. And now I forget why I brought her up.
I asked if there was anyone who hasn't been.
So in meeting with her and being assessed to do mushrooms and use that modality for healing, she warned me, because I was in the middle of a divorce and going through custody, and she warned me and said, just be careful, because people who don't agree can kind of make it hard for you.
Sabotage.
Or yeah, and she's had experiences where people have lost heavy and lost things because they did the psychedelics. And and now my divorce is finalized, and I still have access to my kids, and I'm in a place where I know I'm trusting that people who don't agree, like, let me share my experiences with you, but I'm confident that I'm not gonna like lose access to my kids because I'm doing ayahuasca or I'm doing psychedelics, because this is making me a better person, and it's making me be a better mother. And
you're going somewhere where it's legalized and it's medicalized, and
right. And there is support there, like support personnel, and I feel like you're allowed to have a different opinion around it. But this is not your journey. It's my journey. And let me answer questions for you if you have any, that, how overall psychedelics have changed my life and helped me to release. And I'm looking forward to that next step of whatever it is.
So this fellow that you were speaking to before, Jordan, you said he's gone twice.
Yeah.
Did he share how it was different the second time versus the first time? Like, does it change your perspective when you've already had a known experience of what it's like? Like, I remember the first time I jumped out of an airplane was totally different than the second time I jumped out.
Right.
Because I knew the second time what was coming. And it was both more exciting and more terrifying at the same time.
So much anticipation, and,
correct.
And there is a lot of fear around the unknown. So the first time Jordan went, him and his wife went and journeyed together. And then he said, oh, goodness gracious, this is the best thing ever. We have to get everyone coming down. And so his family was still active in the Mormon church, and his dad, who is still active in the Mormon church, went with him the second time. And so he journeyed with his father, who is an active Mormon.
So would the Mormon church support this?
From my understanding, no.
Okay.
They have a word of wisdom, and they don't
deviate.
Right. They don't do psychedelics or like I think it's borderline like medicalized cannabis and stuff. But
so when he went down the second time with his dad, did he report much of a different type of experience?
He just said it's deep. It brings up stuff that you're not even aware that you need. And that's where hearing that from him and having my own experiences previously with other psychedelics and cannabis even, that it goes where it needs to. And it brings up what is there.
Right.
And just bringing that to your awareness. So now I'm able to heal it. I can't heal from what I don't know I was even hurt by.
Yeah. You have to name it to claim it.
Exactly.
All things. Right.
Yeah.
This is very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I can't wait to be on the other side of it and know the difference.
It would be
how
interesting.
different is this going to be?
Would you consider writing yourself a letter, a future you, from this perspective of current you?
Like right now, write it to future.
Before you go, and have it ready, sitting there on your kitchen table for you to read when you get back.
Yeah, I like that.
I love those sorts of experiments.
Yeah, me too, because especially with what I've had personally with the mushrooms, opening my mind and seeing that like the strength that I got during cancer wasn't from anybody else but me. It was me the whole time. It was future me sending that love and energy back to the past. And it's like I didn't recognize it at the time, but now looking back, I see the power that was. And I know that perspective shift was from the mushrooms. And yeah, I feel empowered from that, and to know and be able to have more of a proof, kind of like I can hold this in
Tangible,
my hand.
Measurable.
Yes. And even this conversation, and to see, you know, without sharing specifics. But I know in my head when I say I've been through some stuff, like I know in my head those things, and what can I release around, you know, what's not in my control? What can I let go of? Where can I show up better for myself and live more aligned to me? And then being able to compare the difference.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second.
Yes,
if you
please.
had something to share with future you right now, what would it be regarding this experience? And what do you think future you will say to current you? Now that's a big bomb there. Hang on 1 second. Just think about that for 1 second. Part 2 of part 1. I think I may have messed up the buttons.
Oh no.
That's okay. So part 2 of part 1 was what advice would you have for current you based on future you? Or what would future you say to current you? Or what advice would you give the you 10 minutes before the ceremony?
I think go with the flow and lean into what I can't control. And like lean into that understanding instead of feeling like I need to grab onto it and hold it on so tight and I need to have this and it needs to be X, Y, Z, or I don't want it.
Right.
But understanding that it's going to go where it needs to, and I trust the past work that I've done to understand that I can get through this hard darkness that will come through because I am strong. I am light. I am love. And when I lead with love, love happens.
And love provides.
Yeah. And it will be what I need, whatever it's like. I don't know how. I just trust that it will be what I need without knowing the specifics. And that's hard. I think a lot of control and needing to have that control is like a trauma response. I need to do this so that I stay protected and safe because I can control that and that will keep me safe and then I don't have to be hurting. Mm-hmm. But being able to let go of that and trust that whatever comes up, I can handle.
Because you've handled everything life has thrown you so far.
Exactly. I have gotten through 100% of the hard days. And I mean, it has been hard. So hard. And there's times where I think about who I am now and how my life is. And even like looking back at when I was going through cancer, no way would I have ever thought that I would be divorced, that I would own my own house living in Medicine Hat. Like, no. And yet here I am. And I've chose what I've chosen and gotten myself through. So it's like future me is counting on current me to show up, to get through the hard times, to trust, to know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to not know what that next step is, but just to lift your foot and start to take the step. And I trust that whatever it is, the universe has it, that there will be something for me to step on when I put my foot down. I don't know how, and I don't know what.
Kind of like Indiana Jones when he walks
100%.
across the chasm.
I think of that like all the time. Like I am Indiana Jones. We all are Indiana Jones. Like there's no way to know 100%. And that's part of the thrill.
Yes.
And that is the, like, literally, like, step into that. Lean into that. It's scary because I want to know and I need to know that it's going to be okay. And I don't want to get hurt. And I'm just like, I want to stay safe and cozy and comfortable. But stepping out there is unknown and
that's where the growth
dark.
happens.
But then I do it, and then I didn't die. I didn't fall into the deep black pit of despair. Close.
Right.
And I got myself out. There was something there for me to put my foot on. And I think that's where, like, I call it trust, faith, you know, just relying on the unknown and knowing that I'll be okay.
You know what I find fascinating in all of this? And one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast was for exactly what I'm just about to share right now. I interviewed a lady named Miranda 2 or 3 days ago, and we did her podcast. And the last question I asked her was, how do you advise somebody, or what advice would you have for somebody who needs to do the hard things and doesn't know how to find the bravery to do it? And she thought about it for not even more than half a second. And she said something very similar to what you just said just now, is if it is in alignment with who you are and what you want, and you are in alignment with it, you just have to do the things. You just have to do it.
Yeah. Take that step.
Support yourself. Do the things. Hashtag all the things.
Yeah. And knowing that future me is counting on current me. You know, I want to lose some weight. I want to be fit and toned. Well, I would also like to live till be 80. I know that 80-year-old me is counting on 36-year-old me to go to the gym, to eat healthy, to get enough sleep, so that I have a healthy body. I'm supporting my hormones and my bones and my muscles. You know, not that it overly matters, because looks are, you know, the least interesting thing about me. But, you know.
You're still very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I know I'm a cute girl. I know it. But, like, I'm also the heaviest that I've ever been in my life, and I'm struggling to lose the weight. And I think society has a influence of, like, you know, especially women, you need to look this way and be skinny. And it's just like, well, that's not realistic for the majority of the people. But knowing that I'm going to the gym and showing up and trying to eat healthy, doing those things, so that when I'm 80, I don't have osteoporosis, and I have a good heart that can last and live. Like, I have to support those things if I want to be 80 and healthy and, like, be able to enjoy my life. I need to do those things now. And I'm counting on me, just like me right now. I bought my first house in October. That me needed past me to go to school, to get an education, to be able to have a job, to show up every day, to go to work and do those things. And in that, I had previous investments and being able to make that step. I couldn't just, like, buy a house without all of the previous choices leading up to that step. I think it's all more intertwined than the, you know, Monday to Friday, like the simple, just like
moment, like, this is all I have here.
Yeah, and just not focusing or thinking about how your step today impacts the future, and how, like, appreciating all the steps that I've taken to get here, and appreciating that, and making it be more intentional than just, you know, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, close my eyes, I can't do, you know, just like doing bare minimum to survive, but still appreciating all the work that I've done in the past, and looking forward with hope for the future that I want, and, like, living my life for me, not
what society expects it to be.
Yeah.
Well, the past you from 4 years ago that planted the seed that this might be interesting to try, and let's just tuck it away and put it on simmer in the back burner, very, very quietly bubbling away.
I never, at that time, I didn't even entertain the idea that I would do that.
Right.
It was just like,
and there we are,
listening,
you know, from 4 months ago saying, wow, this something has grown here, and now the you a week from now or 10 days from now is going to be having this life-changing experience. One way or the other, it will change your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to send love and compassion to that you 10 days from now, and the one from 17 days from now after you've had your week there, and the 3 days after that, and the 3 days after that when you come home, to potentially sitting there reading a letter that you write to yourself now. I'm fascinated at that impact, how that might have an impact.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah. And I mean, that for me is how like plant medicine has encouraged that mentality more, like living instead of it just being like, whatever you got to do to survive, just get through this day. Every day I'm just surviving each day. But opening my mentality and even my brain power. It's like activating parts of my brain that are dormant.
Well, you
They're
already
sleeping.
started that process just by sheer deciding.
Right. And then being able to like step into that and embrace it and use that as I get more aligned to who I am, and awakening my parts of my brain that have been sleeping for so long or hidden underneath the rug and brushed away, and me saying no, lifting up the rug and saying no, all of you is welcome here, and see what needs to be released and that isn't aligning with who I am anymore. I was taught some specific things about who I was as a person in the Mormon church that don't align with who I am. And being able to step away in strength and power and say, thank you, that no longer serves me, and I can release it. And
much like you don't keep the clothes that you wore when you were 7.
Well, exactly. And like
they don't fit you anymore, so let them go.
Right. And, let it go to
somebody else who can benefit from it, or have that energy transmuted into something else.
Right.
Well, I am very excited to be able to bring this series to the airwaves, to the podcast world.
And I really like being able to share my parts of my story.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nikole. And when you get back, give us a shout and we'll reconnect and put part 2 of this together.
I can't wait.
And send it out there. Awesome. Thank you everyone for listening, and stay tuned. We've got a couple of amazing guests coming up in the podcast too, as well as one that will be hitting the airwaves. I guess, we're talking about space and time. It will be hitting the airwaves before you hear this, but it's after it was done, and yet it's all happening.
Yep.
All right. I'll leave it there, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you again.